Hello and welcome back to another episode of Spawn Traps Hit Pause MCU, the podcast that is said to be kind of the thinking man's dirt bike, a beautiful union of form and function. I am Till. I'm joined once again by Jordan,
Hello, everyone. Hello,
and let me
hello.
make sure that I am streaming this to YouTube as backup. Oh shoot, we might be live. Wasn't supposed to set public.
Well, I apologize on my raspy voice.
I will change that quickly while we're setting up here. But we're talking about Loki, episode 5 of season 2. We are not talking about episode 6, the finale. We haven't watched it yet because we don't want to be spoiled about our thoughts and opinions and theories for this uh, discussion here. So,
Yeah.
I'm going to start with you while I'm trying to fix this here. But what did you think about episode 5?
I actually just watched it again because that's where Jess was. Where did we start? I think we started. Victor Timely just turned into spaghetti,
Yes.
uh, and then everybody. Temporal Loom failed.
Mm-hmm.
Started erasing branches and whatever. Uh,
Oh, we are private. Okay, good. Does it say
is that
private?
Remember Last? Yes, Remember Last. So it starts off with Loki time slipping again, and he gets stuck time slipping it, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And he starts time slipping between I don't know if it's the same time or I guess different timelines or different just periods. I don't know.
Uh,
I guess it's just space, right? Doesn't he say he's being time
in
slipping
the
between
are you talking about the
spaces?
beginning still, where he's not slipping within the TVA?
No. This one when he just keeps going, he starts time slipping between all the different like he just like teleports between people. Like he goes
Yeah,
to where did he go? Where did he go first? He
he's
went to
skipping.
Alcatraz with Casey, I think.
Yes, that's a
Yeah.
little bit later. So, what I will say is because I kind of made notes about stuff that happened in chronological order here.
Mm, perfect. I
So
can't
because
remember where it started.
yeah, I did rewatch the episode as well. Like I'm like, oh darn, I'm not
I
gonna
was
have
like,
any time to rewatch it. And then you're like, hey, can we do it tomorrow? And when you texted me that, I was like, yes, thank you, because I was not in the mindset for podcasts, and I'm
my
like,
voice
and I have,
was my voice was way worse yesterday. So I guess
yeah,
is I was like when you said you wanted to do it today, I was like, yeah, I'm down. But I was like, I got a little in me. I am like I'm
got
so
you.
drained from being sick all week. So
Yeah, well, my plan is to watch the new episode tomorrow, so it's like,
cool.
I don't know, this is kind of like the perfect time for me to do it, um, but yeah, so I used the opportunity to rewatch the episode and I made notes, so perfect. So yes, it starts off. Everybody gets sent back to their original branch timelines, except for Loki and Sylvie. They're the only two exceptions. My guess is because Loki time slips. He's kind of like time slipped through that explosion.
Yeah,
And Sylvie has the He Who Remains is Tempad still. Should
yeah,
probably use that to escape away.
yeah,
But yeah, he was time slipping throughout the TVA. So different points of time within the TVA, like he has been doing since the first episode. But you were right. He first sees Casey in Alcatraz. And Casey is so every one of those other people in the TVA got sent to their original branched timelines before they were when they were variants and they were sent to the TVA and had their memories erased. Um, so for Casey's branched timeline variant, he is someone named Frank Morris, who is actually a real person who escaped from Alcatraz. It was
hmm.
actually a real story that I picked from, much like Loki being DB Cooper from
Right,
season one.
yeah,
Um,
interesting.
yeah,
Um,
that was a cool scene.
yeah, it was a cool scene. I was like, I wanted more from it. Actually, I was like hoping to like the episodes were too short because I was like, I could do a whole episode
I
on as to like everyone's background.
don't know if this
Um,
episode was short or just really good because I think this was like probably the best episode
I felt
of the
like to
season.
me, I felt it was really short. I liked it. It was just very like it just felt like Loki. All we really got from it was Loki
Yeah.
learning to control his thing, which I find weird for him. Like I
hmm
don't understand why he can just time slip through everything and why he's able to control it. Like I don't know.
I think it has something to do. I mean, we're just speculating right now. I think they did actually make a comment about this, but he thinks it has something to do with the tempad that was used to kick him through to the TVA.
Mm,
To see who remains as tempad,
mm,
sending him to an earlier point in the TVA.
gotcha.
But he's also a character who has a list of abilities that
Yeah.
he's learned, and he's very adept at magic.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't think it's too out of the realm of possibility. Um, Granted, this is a fictional character who can jump through space and time and is a god. So it's from
I
Norse
was also,
mythology.
yeah, what I was also seeing. Okay, so actually, get back to what I was saying
Hmm.
after. Who else do we see? Who else do we see? I'll bring up my other theory after.
Okay. Next up on the list is B15. Her branch timeline variant is Verity Willis, a character who is from the comics and has the ability to tell whenever someone is lying.
Interesting. That was really cool.
Uh,
She's a doctor, right?
she's a doctor. She is in New York in the year 2012, the same setting as the Chitauri
Yeah.
invasion in the Secret Event, and sorry, in the first Avengers movie. If that
However,
makes
it does say sacred timeline, but it says branch timeline.
no, it does say branch timeline.
Yeah. So it's I don't know why they had to like specifically say
Because
what year
they
what year.
everybody in the TVA are variants, so they're all from
Yeah.
branch timelines.
Right. Okay.
My
That's true.
theory, because she could have been in the Battle of New York in
Yeah.
2012. Um, Frank Morris, we don't know what happened to him. And the two guys that he was with. So it's speculated that they either drowned or they survived. They were never heard from again.
Hmm.
My theory is these are variants that were supposed to die, but they didn't in their branch timelines, and
Mm.
that's why they were variants and why they got sent to the TVA.
Yeah, interesting. I like Casey. It's so funny how nice and nerdy he is in the first episode we see him, and then he's a prisoner or like he's been sent
Yeah,
to Alcatraz. I almost said Azkaban. I might say
Azkaban.
Azkaban. I might say Azkaban once or twice in this
Skip the
podcast, but
Dementors.
but I meant Alcatraz.
Yeah. And I guess Frank Morris has an incredible IQ, so that also explains why Casey's so smart in the TVA.
Hmm.
uh, and is so knowledgeable about how the temporal loom works and everything. Um, Next up, uh, Loki meets Dawn, who is Mobius. And he is a single dad from a branch timeline in 2022, which would
Yeah,
take place during the blip. He
yeah,
also mentioned that his wife is long gone, so I'm guessing that his wife was blipped.
yeah. 2022. The blip happened in 2018.
Yeah,
And that means everybody didn't come back till 2023.
yeah,
Right. Everybody came back this year.
yeah.
Interesting. That's crazy. I didn't even think about that. I don't. Every time those subtitles come up, they're
Hmm.
so quick that I look at them and then I stop looking at them and I start looking to see like what like where Loki's when he's doing his like fucking
Yeah,
time slipping and he's all his arms are everywhere. I love watching the time slipping and the how it painful it looks that I
yeah.
always skip the subtitles or the timelines.
I
I saw hers because it said 2012 and that's why it
yeah.
stuck out. But
I think I still think the effect is incredible in this show.
I
Every
yeah I
time
do
it
like
comes
it.
up, I'm like, that looks horrifying.
Yeah. Especially when the doctor he teleports into the room and she like sees it
Yeah.
and then I don't even know if he got to say anything, but then he immediately teleported away and I was like, God, she was probably like she's probably gonna be in a psych ward after that. Like she doesn't know what she just saw.
Next up, uh, we meet Ouroboros, who is actually A.D. Doug from a branch
Hmm,
timeline in 1994, a science fiction author of The Sons of Urine, and a theoretical physicist at Caltech. Um,
Again, every time he's on screen,
mhm,
he's my favorite character immediately. He's so
yeah.
funny to watch, man.
His I didn't find anything significant about his character, so I could be wrong. I don't think there's any sort of significance to the comics, like anything that I was able to find. The year in where was he in California? I think the closest thing would have been like um the particle explosion that happened in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania
Yeah,
that happened to Ghost. Um, but like I don't know what else. Uh, but the only thing of reference I have here is that his workspace looks very similar to Obi's workspace in the TVA, just
that's what
like
I thought.
bigger.
It was like it looked just like they. I was like, why are we in the TVA again? I was like, oh,
Yeah.
we're on Earth. And I was like, so it must have been they must have whoever built the TVA, or because Ouroboros has been in that room for 400 years plus,
Yeah.
like whatever. It must just be that he designed his workspace to something familiar. Like I'm wondering if that's
Yeah.
something like they don't have knowledge of their variants or their life their past times, or
Like
whatever,
a
but
subconscious.
like a subconscious thing, because I was
Yeah.
like, his workspace looks exactly like it did before. I did love, however, when he was talking about the book that he wrote. Loki's literally holding it and
Yeah.
like flipping through it. Ouroboros is talking to him, and then like a couple seconds later, after Loki's already put it down, there's a stack of books next to
They're
Obi, and he goes, "Oh
everywhere.
look, yeah, I know." He goes, "Oh look, here's a copy," and I'm like, "That's like he's just his mind is a puzzle to me, and it's just he's so funny. Like I love that actor. It's so great. Just oh look, here's a
Yeah.
copy. Like
Well,
I was like crying laughing.
he seems to be the character in the TVA who has the best memory, so it makes sense that he would make his workspace kind of more familiar, I guess.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. So Loki, he mentions that Loki is not only starting the time slip through time, but also through space now.
yeah,
Loki gives AD a copy to the TVA guidebook to learn how to create a tempad so that they can use it to trace the collective temporal aura of all the TVA variants that Loki can find and travel back to an earlier moment in time in the TVA.
right.
Um, there's one other person that they need to find though, and that is Sylvie. Sylvie
Yeah,
is the only one who remembers Loki, and that's because she had the tempad, right?
yeah, yeah. I just thought it was so weird because like she's a variant, but
Mm-hmm.
she's not like she doesn't have her own place on the timeline. So
She
I
does. If I
like
mean, if everybody else got sent to their like, if their branches exist,
yeah,
then
I
theoretically
guess
her branched Asgard should exist now too.
right. Yeah, I suppose.
But she would have been a
So
child. Like she's the only one who's older than her variant counterpart.
yeah, I'm what. Hmm. Yeah, I was just wondering because they don't have any memory of it. So I'm wondering, like, when the loom failed, and it just, I'm wondering if it like killed them all, and
I
then
don't
he was
know.
time slipping to other variants that like are just that have no
Yeah.
they don't memory of this because they're just other variants. But his time slipping, so he doesn't have control
Or
of his time slipping, but it keeps going to
yeah.
these people. So he must have. I'm wondering like how he just like auto like be, like by the end like he I don't know. It just feels like he can
Yeah,
kind
it's
of control it almost the whole time, but it's I don't know.
you talking about Loki?
Yeah, like Loki, the way he time slips, I'm like he always needs to. He always seems to go to all the people he needs. He never just
Yeah.
teleports somewhere completely random.
Yeah.
But he, I don't know.
My I mean, I'll have a discussion about that because it was it was a point of contention when I was watching an episode with my brother about what that means. Um, but I think for like how everybody else gets sent back to their branch timeline, I don't
Yeah,
exactly know. But it seems like some sort of failsafe protocol, and it seems like they had some sort of evacuation process because they were saying everybody go to the nearest tempad
yeah,
or door to like
yeah,
escape.
yeah,
But if everybody in that room for the temporal loom didn't have that, and they were all like sent to their branch timeline, does
right.
that mean like they were somehow teleported to that point in time and then their memories are erased? or did they actually die and then their branched timeline cells just like naturally got created again? Um,
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
It's weird. It's very like it's not too complicated of of a series, but I just feel like they need to just like explain things a
Yeah,
little bit better, like just some certain things.
yeah, a lot of questions that come from the show.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what else happens. Really, you're just learning the background of everybody's
Yeah.
character. He gets a Sylvie. Sylvie remembers him.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't want to help,
Yep.
and then she uses her temp pad to send Loki back to his group of people. And then,
Yeah.
it took me a minute to figure out how that happened because in that scene when they're all in the room and he's
Yeah.
collected them all, I was expecting Loki to time slip back, but
Mm-hmm.
he came back from a time door,
Mm-hmm.
and it was right as Ouroboros is on a stool with his book, and Casey was about to say like he's gonna steal it and use it to rob
Yeah.
places,
I didn't even think
but
about
then
that. Yeah.
and then he comes through a door, and I'm like, who opened the door for him? And I was like, okay, so it obviously had to have been Sylvie opened the
Yeah.
door for him
Yeah.
because
For
it's the
sure.
only thing that makes sense because she still has a door thing. And that took me a second to figure it out because I was like, what, is that an error? Like what happened? But I remembered by the end of the episode what happened. So I always forget she has a temp pad. So
um.
um
Yeah. Next, Sylvie decides to wind down with some music,
yeah,
and everything around her starts to spaghettify.
yeah. Which I think we've already just described it. The way I see it is I think that is supposed to symbolize time unraveling,
Mm-hmm.
but to me it just looks like worms or spaghetti. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't really look like the threads of time unraveling. I think that's
Yeah.
what they were going for, but it doesn't though. I did like how I think the guy turns into spaghetti and then he's pouring
Everybody does.
coffee.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's pouring coffee and his coffee mug is gone, so
Yeah.
it's already gone. But then I like how the coffee is hitting the table, and as it's pouring over the desk, it turns into like the strings. And I was like, I don't know. I just the uh, design is really like it's almost better than the snap to me. Like I
Yeah.
liked watching
The
everything
snap
just
was
turn into
just
string.
dust, right?
Yeah,
It's just like
yeah,
everything goes to pixels, and then but this is like no, it's more intricate and detailed.
yeah. But the way everything turns to dust around them,
Mm-hmm.
or spaghetti around them, and then she used the time door to escape.
Yeah.
And then she comes to Loki, and I forget what she says. She said no, I
Um.
want to live my life, blah blah blah. And then she gets there, and then she says, no, you're right. We have to fix the TVA because everything is failing.
Yeah. I think she said everything's falling apart or something like that.
Yeah,
What
yeah,
happened here? Oh. Okay, never mind. It fixed itself. Um. Yeah. Then everybody starts to spaghettify,
yeah.
and then Loki uh just starts freaking out, and then he figures out how to control his time slipping. Um, and then he realizes how he can fix everything or rewrite everything. And he time slips to an earlier point in the TVA where Obi is watching someone about to run to the temporal loom. So that could either be the point in time where Mobius runs out to the temporal loom. I'm assuming that's your
Yeah.
dog.
Yeah, she just opened the door, did a lap around the room, and then just left with the door open. So give me 1 sec to close my door. She just gave me the weirdest
Sure.
huff and look.
Like, pay attention to me. Um, yeah, so
She
this
was like, "Let's fucking go, wrap this shit up."
uh yeah, so this would either be when Mobius is walking out to the temporal loom from episode 1 or when Victor Timely is running out and about to be destroyed.
Sorry,
Um
what was that you said though? Sorry, I took my
uh
headphones out.
yeah, when Loki travels back to an earlier point in the TVA, it's where Obi is watching someone about to run to the temporal loom. So that's either
Mm,
Mobius from episode 1
yeah.
or Victor Timely from the previous episode when he
Hmm.
got destroyed. Um, do you have any thoughts about which point in time that is?
I think it's timely.
Yeah.
Because did we see the thing collapse again? Like it explodes again at the. I can't remember.
Um,
When he teleports at the end, he's teleports.
we
I
didn't
don't have my
see.
phone
We
on me.
just we just saw him. We just saw him standing behind Ob.
Trying to remember how the hell it ended. If I can bring it
Yeah,
up
he just
myself here.
he literally like popped in behind Ob as he was like staring down the stairs, and then
Yeah,
it cuts to the credits with the theme song,
yeah.
and it was like the most epic way to end that episode.
I'm
I thought.
assuming. I'm assuming it's because if it's he. Yeah, I'm assuming it has to do with the last episode. I don't think he's gonna time slip all the way back to episode one.
Yeah.
But if he time slips back into um, maybe they can figure out how to like fix what's his name, Victor Timely before he dies,
Yeah.
or figure out what they did wrong. Um, I don't know. Man, they only have one episode to wrap this all up.
Yeah. I'm a little bit torn on that because it makes sense for him to go back to the previous episode because that's where the most progression was out of everything
Yeah.
that they did. That's where Victor Timely is. I'm sure they want to continue with that character in some way. That said, that was like immediately before everything went to shit. So I feel like it also kind of makes sense that he's going back to episode one because it gives them more time to work on and figure out how to stop everything.
But if it was back in that room and you said it was when what's his name went out into the temporal loom, Mobius,
Mobius, yeah,
he was doing that to help Loki stop time slipping.
yeah.
But he just learned to control it. So I don't think he's gonna get rid of his time slipping. Like I don't think it's going back that far, unless he's going to
I
stop him from time
No, I
slipping.
don't think
I
that.
don't
I
know.
think he's just going back in time, specifically to Ob
Hmm.
and saying like, "Hey, we couldn't fix this. How do we fix it?" Because if he's going
I
back to where
yeah.
Victor Timely dies, he's like, "We got like 2 minutes. Tell me what to do." Whereas if he's going back to where Mobius was, he's like, "We got about an hour or something."
I don't know about you, but I am getting like Edge of Tomorrow or like Groundhog Day vibes. Like I feel like it's gonna be
A loop.
yeah, like a loop. Like
The
it's
theory
gonna be
online.
Loki. What's that?
That's I've seen that theory.
Yeah. Justin and I were just like we just watched it and she's like it's probably gonna like actually no, sorry we just watched Edge of Tomorrow like
Yeah.
last week too, so I was like we were both talking about that. We're like it's gonna be like we're probably gonna watch if it's just Victor Timely or all of them change suits and see who does the best like fixing the temporal loom. Like we're
Yeah.
gonna see like just trial after trial of like people dying and trying to figure it out. I'm trying to think of what else we could see. Like, where do you think it's gonna end? Like, what do you think the how the episode's gonna end?
I feel like it still has to end in a way that is sort of like season one, where it's like, oh, things are not good and things are going to get even worse because
Yeah.
this seems to me like it's clearly setting up Secret Wars.
Hmm.
So this like whatever happens in this show is the catalyst to Secret Wars happening. Um,
Yeah.
so we'll see.
I saw something that I was gonna ask you. I don't know if it's true or not. I heard that
Mhm.
this is gonna be the last thing Tom Hiddleston is in. But Jess just told me right before I went to this podcast, she said that Loki will be appearing in Secret Wars. I don't know if you know have any facts on either of those.
I haven't had time to delve deep into headlines that I've read. However,
Hmm.
what I've read that is that first of all, the actor strike is over. I mean, it just a quick blip. I'd like to go more into detail about that, but um, that means that actors are now promoting the stuff that they're in, which means they're doing interviews now, including uh, Iman Vellani and everybody else who's involved with the Marvels. They're doing promotional stuff, even though the movie just like it ended as the movie was coming out, so that really sucks for promotion. Um,
Yeah.
but Tom Hiddleston's in interviews right now,
Hmm.
and I think in one interview I think he said this is the last thing that Loki will be in, or the last thing he's doing. Um, but I read another headline saying that his comments are basically taken out of context or misinterpreted, and that he is open to returning as Loki.
Hmm.
Um, so I don't know. I'm assuming Marvel has a plan for Loki to be a part of Secret Wars, but I
Hmm.
couldn't say for sure. I don't know what Secret Wars is going to end up being. It's definitely not going to be like the comics. It's definitely going to be inspired by the comics, much in the same way as like Civil War and everything else, and
I think I asked you
Secret
before what
Invasion.
it's supposed to be, and I have no idea what it's supposed to be about. I totally
I gotta
forget,
lend you the
so
book
I
because
have
it's
no idea.
awesome.
I don't know who's going to be in it. I have no idea where it's going to go. I don't know who the
Yeah,
villains are going to be. I have no clue whatsoever. So yeah,
there
I'll read the book
there's a
for
point in
sure.
time in the comics called so I'm spoiling comics, but again, what happens in the comics doesn't necessarily happen in the movies, and whenever I try to predict stuff that happens in the comics as if they're going to happen in the movies, I'm
Yeah,
always wrong. So take that in grain of salt. You might consider this a spoiler for future stuff coming up for Marvel, but
yeah,
I can say with confidence there's likely that this is not going to spoil anything.
yeah,
So in the comics, there's a point in time they're setting up an event. During it was primarily part of the New Avengers comic line, which they had rebooted, which was basically the Illuminati, but they had an Avengers title comic book. So I don't really know why that was the case. Why
yeah,
not just call it Illuminati? But I think the title Avengers sells more, right? Um,
yeah,
the whole concept was um, incursions. Worlds are colliding. We need to figure out how to stop it. Because it's going to happen to us. Like, worlds are going to collide into our worlds, and we need to fix it.
right,
Um, that that storyline was going throughout all of the comics in the background, and it was a really cool way to. Anytime I read it coming up in the comics, it was like, even though wasn't like a big thing, like a big event that was like the sole purpose of that comic. It was happening in the background, talked about, and it was really cool to see that progress. Um, but the point was the Illuminati couldn't figure out a way to stop incursions from happening. The only thing that they could do is destroy the other world.
yeah,
And I think it got to the point where like Captain America was involved, and he's like, "We can't do that. We got to find a way to make peace or whatever."
yeah,
And some of the other characters are like, we can't do it. We need to like erase Captain America's memory and like continue doing this because this is the only way. Um,
yeah,
and there was a falling out in the group because that was at the time where like Namor and Black Panther were part of the group, and this was after the event that happens in comics, which was basically what happened in the second Black Panther movie. So they were at
yeah,
each other's throats, but they're like, this is for an issue that's like more important than the both of us. We need to come together and figure out how to resolve this. But it got to a point where like Namor just wasn't trusted. He couldn't work with the group, so he starts his own group called the Cabal, a group of bunch of like villains and stuff, like Thanos's children and stuff like that. Where
yeah,
they were going around purposefully, not trying to stop incursions. They were or like trying to figure out how to save all worlds. They were
yeah.
purposely going out and destroying worlds.
Hmm.
And it got to the point where two universes are left: the main comics universe, the Ultimate Comics universe. They were about to collide, but as that was happening, Doctor Doom was figuring out, I can save everybody. I'm not going to spoil how, because I think the characters involved with Doctor Doom's story are going to show up in the future.
Hmm.
So I don't want to spoil those characters. Doom figured out how to create a singular planet that had bits and pieces of different comics universes together to form one planet. And everybody had like their borders and everything. So like you can't go outside of the borders unless you have like permission from the god Doom and his like
Jesus.
workers and everything. Um, there's even a section of the planet like underneath on the bottom of the ground. There's like three like really um um disastrous parts of the world, where one
Yeah,
section, it was on the bottom of the planet. One section was zombies. All the zombies were there. Another section was like Ultron, like a bunch of Ultron variants were there. But basically, little bits and pieces of like various universes were part of this world. It was pretty much
This is the
Marvel
this is the which one? Sorry, the
Secret Wars.
Secret Wars.
Yeah.
That's a big. That sounds like a big
There,
comic book.
there's two. It is. I got the comic book. There's actually two Secret Wars. There's the original one, which was in the movie could be like a portion of both. I read the more current one, and I think they're. It seems like they're leading up to the more current one as an interpretation. The first one was just, hey, let's put all the popular characters together on one planet and have them fight each other so we can sell action figures. That was pretty much the first one. So the more current one was basically Marvel trying to make their own Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
And this was their way to do that. So that's pretty much the idea of where I think things are going in the MCU, where the Infinity Saga is going to end up as. Um, but and that's where I think this show is kind of being the catalyst for.
yeah. Uh so trying to think of this
If I'm
one. See, that's
timestamping this, you skipped all the stuff in the spoilers. So if you clicked on timestamp to skip ahead, so don't rewind.
trying to think of. Yeah, see, that's why I thought this episode was so short because it's just like he time slipped to each person, then we
Mhm.
gathered them all, and then he time slipped a little bit while he controlled where he was going, and then he went back saying he fixed it, and then so now we have to. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
him
thought.
him going back is what uh brought up a discussion, like a heated debate between me and my brother, like about what this means,
Mhm.
because I'm like this changes so much. Like he just Loki has the ability, like the greatest ability out of any character we've seen, even Gaia from Secret Invasion, where
Yeah,
Gaia was just like, I'm Super Saiyan, I can just destroy anybody, right? I have all the powers of every character ever.
yeah.
Loki, I feel like now has the power of, fuck it, I'm gonna just rewind reality and then rewrite everything.
Which
Um,
to me seems. It, wasn't that like He Who Remains plan was to give Loki or Sylvie this ability, kind of? So I'm
I,
wondering if like time slipping, like to me, it seems like time slipping is an accident. Like that's what
mhm,
all of
yeah,
a sudden like he started act like slipping or whatever.
I don't know
But
if that
then
was He Who Remains his plan. Is to give Loki that ability. I feel like that happened on accident, but I
I
could
know,
be
but
wrong.
right, like I'm saying like like it doesn't seem like it's an ability. It seems like it was like something that happened to Loki
Yeah.
from Sylvie kicking him through the door, and then
Hmm.
he started time slipping. So there's no, I don't really like you said it was like could have been his temp pad. I still don't really
Yeah.
understand how that lays out into effect,
Sure.
like how that's like a thing, like why he gets a time slip instead of just going through a door because all these people
Yeah.
go through doors all the time,
That's what
no
I'm saying.
problem.
I'm saying because my brother's like, how is this different than Kang? I'm like,
Yeah,
because Kang is using it. Kang is just just a guy who
yeah,
knows how time works, and he's using technology and maybe magic or whatever to like
yeah,
go through to utilize like he understands how the world works, how reality works, and how to
yeah,
navigate that, right?
yeah,
And kind of like wield it. Whereas Loki has the ability to control and rewrite reality
yeah,
pretty much, like how like the rules of time travel, branches and things like that don't matter to Loki. He can just be like no and then go back to any sort of point in time,
yeah.
and not worry about like creating branches or anything, because he's basically rewriting what happens in that point in time.
Which is weird, like, cause he's just like I feel like so yeah. That's why it's hard to like see because there's
Yeah.
no time or whatever in the TVA. So like it's so weird to me. 'Cause I'm like, so if we see the timeline and
Hmm.
then it explodes here, and then
Sure.
all the fallout from it goes this way, but Loki teleports back over here.
Yeah.
Like, isn't so they're saying it doesn't create a branch of like that's like now a timeline that is shattered, but Loki went back here. Maybe like he tries to like. Well, I'm assuming the next one is gonna be a lot of him trying to fix shit. So I'm like, how many like branches are we gonna cause of him like just time slipping around? Unless he doesn't, like he doesn't
Yeah.
cause branches.
I
I
don't
don't
think he
know.
does
Like,
cause branches. I think he's basically like I. he's basically like Kang had to go through and um like basically destroy branches to kind of maintain a single timeline, whereas
Right.
Loki can just be like, "Fuck it, I'm just erasing that," just like or
Yeah.
just like I'm changing how that part of the story goes.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's the difference between the two. But to your point, I have a hard time wrapping my head around the physical representation of time and just time itself because I'm like
Yeah.
whatever picture that they have of the loom and like the strands of time, I'm
Yeah.
like I can't look at that and say that it's the same thing as them traveling through time because I'm like the time is not a physical thing and it kind of like contradicts in some ways that I think about a picture of the timeline.
That's why the only thing I can think of, because like, oh, because he's a variant who, like, he who remains is a variant that I'm assuming all the let's just start from the beginning. All the
Yeah,
variants of He Who Remains, um, they've
we're
all
going back
created,
that far.
yeah, they've all created
Okay.
pieces of stuff in their own universes
Sure.
that
Yeah.
allowed them to have different technology, different magic, different whatever.
Hmm.
And then they started sharing that with each other. He says that in like the last episode. They share that stuff with each other.
Yeah.
So then there was the multiversal war because people wanted more, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming He Who Remains has been at he can go he's been able to, between magic, engineering, and like being able to harness
Just
time.
intellect. He's a
He
very smart
Yeah,
person. Yeah.
yeah. So he's probably gone to numerous timelines, taken all
Hmm.
the resources and stuff he needs, gone to the end of time, got the best technology he could use to create and harness it. It's kind of like his the other one's spaceship that can travel throughout the multiverse.
Hmm.
So that kind of technology we're looking at. Um, then he found a way, I'm assuming, to go outside of time because the
Yes.
TVA, time does not exist there.
Two different
So
points
that's
of outside of time. I'm assuming
yeah,
basically
yeah,
the Citadel at the end of time, which seems to be outside of time, and then the
yeah,
TVA, which is also outside of time.
yeah. I think the Citadel is at the end of time. TVA is outside of time. So the
The
Citadel is
Citadel
what
is in a part of the universe that is destroyed, where there's just a rock, and he's able to somehow see a physical representation of a timeline that's in a circle.
are you saying, what, at the Citadel?
Because
Is that
it
what you're saying?
yeah, because that's what the Citadel is.
I guess it
It's
could.
a rock that's
Yeah,
centered in the middle of what looks like kind of like the temporal loom, a physical representation of the timeline, which makes no sense to me why that's even
yeah.
there. And
So
that's all that is. You think that's part of the universe of where like everything
uh,
is?
it could be just I don't know. There's all kinds of stuff. Like the quantum realm is outside of time too,
Hmm.
so there could be all
Yeah,
kinds of stuff outside of time. So,
yeah,
the Citadel. I'm trying to remember if I can get this right from season one. The Citadel was also in the abyss with with the big Alioth, like as its guard dog. Correct?
yeah. The way I understood that was that he Eliath was pretty much a portal or a door, like a doorway to that citadel.
No, Alioth. I remember him seeing because I had to rewatch season one again.
Okay.
Alioth was he said I remember He Who Remains said that he found Alioth
Yeah.
in his travels,
Hmm.
and I guess whatever harnessed it or captured it, whatever,
Yeah.
is like a creature that just eats everything. So
Yeah.
it is
At the end
so
of time to like
so
destroy it to
sure. So
stop.
at the
Yeah.
well, it's at the end of time. That's where they prune things. They send them to the end of time, where
Yeah.
Alioth is then just there to devour everything. Everything there is devoured. Even
But isn't its purpose also to defend the end of time to prevent
yeah, yeah, to
somebody from
defend.
reaching it?
Yeah, I guess so. It's like the guard dog to
Yeah.
his temple. So whether if it's at the end of time or if it's outside of time as well, I don't really know. I guess
Yeah.
but it's like in its own dimension or universe. I don't know what you want to call it, but it's wherever. I'm assuming it's kind of like how Watchers are. If I had to sort of kind of understand where they can Like that's why I think like the
From
TVA
What If,
is,
the one watcher from What If,
yeah. It's kind
where
of like that's
he's
like what
yeah.
that's like what the TVA is. The TVA is like they are outside of time. They can navigate everything and everyone. And then that's why like the loom was built as like a like I'm wondering if like because let's say oh man, this is so weird. Uh all the variants of Kang were in a
Yeah.
multiversal war, right? So I'm wondering if He Who Remains was like the smartest and was like, dude, like everything is going to be destroyed if I don't do something. And he found a way to manipulate time to go outside of it. And by leaving the outside of time is then when he saw like all the strands of branches, like a god is basically what I see, like a god that can wield branches,
I
like a
wouldn't
like
say
river.
even at that point that he's a god. I would say that he's very smart. I don't know if he's the smartest. He's definitely the
Yeah,
most tactical because
yeah.
he won.
Yeah,
Um
so then that's where he starts pruning all the branches so that there's just
yeah.
one branch. So I guess it would make it's more sense of your theory then, where it is just one timeline and then every branch is where
Yeah.
the things all come to play. Because I always thought it was like there was still lots of things existing, we
Yeah.
just weren't colliding. So it is literally like a string thing, I guess. That is like once it branches, and that is the only way I can understand the temporal loom. I'm hoping the last episode explains the
I'm
fucking
like
thing
I'm
to
at
me.
a point where like I'm gonna stop understanding the temporal loom because I got another question about the temporal loom that you're
Yeah,
like leading into, but like I have more to bounce off of from you, so I don't know, and I'm choosing to just like ignore that and just like I'm just not gonna worry about it right now because it's
mhm.
too much, right? It's too much for me to
Yeah,
understand. And in terms of our theories, I'm open to both now because it
yeah,
seems like a whole bunch of other places online with their theories are using your theory where there's always multiple universes and the sacred timeline is its own thing
yeah,
and like I'm like okay. I'm like, I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if we're really gonna know what the answer is.
yeah,
I think it's just it's all just people are gonna make their theories, and there's not gonna be any sort of concrete evidence of it. So people are gonna make sense of it in their mind how best they can. I'm gonna do it as best as I can. You're gonna do it as best as you can. I don't think there's any wrong answer. Everything kind of works out that way. My question on the temporal loom is in trying to make sense of everything and trying to rationalize what the temporal loom is and watching the show, I was getting to the understanding, based on everything we've seen and everything that was said, that the temporal loom is basically an energy source for the TVA.
yeah.
Um,
That's what you and I came up with.
yeah, but now after watching this episode, I don't know if that's the case because like it explodes and then the
Yeah,
TVA unravels, which
yeah,
exists outside of time. Um, Now because of that, all of time, any branches in the sacred timeline, we don't even know about the sacred timeline if the same thing's happening to the sacred timeline, but all of the branches, at least, and the TVA are all unraveling. So is
right.
that because of the temporal loom failing? And if so, is the temporal loom the um is its existence essential to all of reality?
Yeah,
And if that's the case, what happened before the temporal loom was made? Like, wasn't the
um,
temporal loom made by the TVA to?
yeah.
I don't know. Like
I
so
know.
confusing.
So that's it. The other thing. So let's say all the variants. So everyone starts turning to dust, right?
Yeah,
Like that last scene where everyone's turns to dust. Sylvie, everyone turned to dust, and then what happened was it was Sylvie and Loki. Did Sylvie turn to dust too?
she did.
She did. So
She
it was
said
just
there's
Loki.
nowhere else to go, and then she like turned to
Yes, yeah,
dust.
that she did. So that's what me and Jess were trying to figure out too. I was like, did Loki? Because technically Loki is now a variant because he was supposed to go on through his thing and die. But I
Yep.
was like, he was also from the sacred timeline. So I was like,
No,
is he? I was like, is he not dying because he's from the sacred timeline? Like he's original one from the sacred timeline
he's
from like
not.
now. I know,
He's
but
yeah.
so now he's technically a variant. So I was like, so I don't know why he doesn't turn to dust because all these other branches are failing except for the main timeline. But then I was like, so it's just the time slipping, just the
I'm
times.
sure if he just stood there
Yeah,
long enough, he would
maybe.
turn to dust. But he can control time and stop it. So
So I'm assuming, yeah, I'm just assuming timeline. It's just because it's time slipping, and I gotta figure. We gotta get to the bottom what the hell is time slipping is. But it
I don't know
just
if we do.
seems.
I think I assume we're gonna get an answer in the next episode, at least for the time slipping aspect of it. But
If it doesn't have something to do with He Who Remains, then I don't understand it because I'm like, it just started happening after he got kicked out of the Citadel, but everybody else has gone through doors, so it seems like a
I
plan.
I am under the assumption we're going to get some sort of Kang variant in the last episode, whether it be Victor Timely, like somebody's got to be involved
Yeah,
with how the resolution of this series. I think it's going to be the finale of the series.
yeah,
Um, how it's all going to end. Is it going to be Victor Timely? Is it going to be He Who Remains, or is it going to be someone else? But I
yeah,
think Jonathan Majors will play a major role in the last episode.
yeah.
I'm assuming. But,
It is. There's only like two options I can think of where this is gonna go, unless they
mm,
blow my mind out. But I'm like, either they find a way to fix the temporal loom and
no.
they get the branches under wraps and the multiverse exists, or we're just like, because we can't. I don't know. There's
But
something's gonna
again,
happen.
is the temporal loom's existence necessary for for the multiverse to exist?
Okay, so let's say the
Just
temporal loom is gone. So then what happens? So what the temporal loom is like those rings, right, around the threads of time. That's
yeah,
my understanding.
yeah.
So like,
No,
if you break,
it's hard. They said it's harnessing raw time. That's all they said. It's harnessing raw time, and it can't handle the
but
raw
it
time coming from the branches.
yeah, and it weaves. Its job is to weave it all together or whatever.
Yeah, in
So
order to
so to weave it into the sacred timeline. I can't remember what it
no,
does.
because well, I okay. So as we're recording this, I finished editing my episode 1 watch, and I'm at the point where it's uploaded to YouTube, and I'm like, do I even release this? Because it's too late at this point. We've been doing our podcasts. I don't know. In that recording, I went on a rant. I'm like, what the fuck is a temporal loom? And I went on to like
I think
look
we've
at
been on
it.
a rant
Yeah, I
every
looked at
episode.
it. I'm like, is this? This looks like the Ouroboros snake, because I'm like, where's the
Yeah,
beginning? Where's the end? Like, what the fuck is this thing? I'm gonna release that. So I'm gonna
yeah,
release that. I only did it for episode 1. It will be up on this channel probably this week. Like I'll probably have time to upload it, or like
yeah.
release it and everything. Um, it's an hour long.
You should do a
So
commentary over it. So as you like, when you release it,
yeah.
do what your rants on it, and then after you watch the last episode, go, "Wow, I was way off on that," or "I got this right," and just
I
go
did
through
some
it.
subtitles, but like I
Yeah,
didn't spend too much effort on correcting myself. So I did say this was recorded um in between episodes 1 and 2.
yeah.
So I think that kind of like resolved everything. But
Whatever the temporal loom is, it is built by a Kang variant. So whether it's destroyed or whatever the end of this, I'm assuming that is what's just gonna unravel time
it was
and
built
this
by OB, they said, based
will be
on work from Victor
right.
Timely, which also
Yeah.
that does not make sense to me, but I'm just gonna go with it.
Unless that's what He Who Remains' original name was. Maybe it's a different Victor Timely. Like maybe his name was Victor Timely,
I think
and
we
then
had this
his was
discussion
Victor
last
Timely.
week.
Yeah, there could be a lot of Victor Timely's because the way I think, yeah, it was what I said last week. I said
Yeah,
it's Ouroboros wrote it
yeah,
based off of stuff from He Who Remains, but it's from Victor Timely, and Victor Timely thinks it's Ouroboros, but it's like a weird like three-way circle. I don't know,
yeah.
whatever. Uh, who knows? Um, but because we're not done with the multiverse yet, I'm assuming the branches aren't all going to be trimmed or pruned because we have
Yeah,
to keep doing multiverse stuff. So,
for now.
the only way so is there going to be another Loki season, or is this it for Loki?
I don't know, but
Is
I'm
there,
assuming this is the final one. This is the only show, like the live action show, that
yeah,
has a second season.
yeah. I only saw the title for the last episode.
Okay.
Do you want me to say the name
Good.
of it or no?
I don't know. What do you think?
I,
Like
it's not
I'm
it's
not
not a
being I'm not being smart. I'm just like what do you actually think?
I don't think it's a spoiler. Let me just do a quick Google search of look. What was
You
the
want
name
you
of
want my theories based on what the title is?
yeah,
Okay.
Loki season 1. Can you? I don't have my phone on me.
I'm trying to charge my mouse, which I guess the battery is just
Oh.
shot on this thing now. I lost the cable for it.
Okay,
It's,
so unless I read it wrong, but I'm
yeah.
pretty sure episode 1,
Okay.
season 1 of Loki's name was Glorious Purpose,
Yep. Yeah.
and Loki season 2,
Hmm.
the title of season 2, episode 6, is also called Glorious Purpose.
That's interesting. You don't usually see that in a show where they reuse the same title on multiple
Yeah,
episodes.
because I watched episode 5 a couple days ago, and I just
So
watched it
you're
again tonight.
thinking, are you
Just
thinking because the title is the same that it goes in a circle? It's a loop.
I don't know if it's gonna be a loop. I don't know what's gonna go on. I don't know
Okay.
but the only
Interesting.
things, the only thing, because it's like Loki, and he's dramatic, and
Yeah.
he wants to be the king or ruler the whole time. It was kind of his uh he who remains is a thing to make Sylvie and Loki rule together. I'm
Yeah.
wondering if that's how this season is going to end, with Loki and Sylvie like being the ruler of all time. And then I don't know if that's going to be like permanently, or if it's just like a little bit, but I'm assuming the two of them are going to be like they're going to just have to take He Who Remains' job, because if
I
it goes back all the way to episode
yeah.
1 and we're time slipping and we got to correct it, that's like the only thing I could think of.
I think if
Like,
that happens, then we're under the assumption that this was He Who Remains' plan all along and that he saw this happening. Like these series of events leading up to whatever the finale is. He somehow saw all that happening,
yeah.
which would be insane. Like,
Yeah.
damn, like there's
Well,
another aspect to Kang we didn't even think about.
that would, well, he is He Who Remains, so I'm
Yeah.
assuming that he's the last one. If the way the timeline seems to make sense in this is that he pruned all other branches and there isn't anything else, unless unless they don't prune anything,
Yeah.
then he is the last one or whatever. So I don't know if when he said "see you soon" at the end, we all assumed we were gonna see a bunch of uh variants, right? Like when we talked about season 1, I thought it was
Yeah, I
all
thought
gonna
that's what
be
he
like,
meant. Is like, I'll my variants will see you soon,
yeah,
or like,
maybe we will see
I'm
him
gonna,
again.
yeah.
Even if it's like a time slip, even if he time slips back, maybe he can talk uh Sylvie out of, I don't know, I have fucking no idea. Maybe he's not to kill him, or maybe to take over his spot. Like, I have no idea. The
Yeah,
only
I'm
thing I
kind
can
of,
think of is that it's not going to be one timeline. Like, it's going to have to branch out everywhere. And I
yep,
just
yep.
want the temporal loom explained to
That's
me.
a,
That's all I want.
I don't think
That's
we're
all I
gonna get
want.
the answer on the temporal loom. I think they had to have, hey, here's a, like for people who aren't us and trying to like over rationalize and analyze every little aspect of how time travel, how the concept of time travel works in this fictional universe. Um, I think for everybody else who's just watching this as like a regular show of a comic book movie franchise, that are trying to explain out of like normal concepts on like how existence works and how reality works, that they needed some sort of physical picture for people to look at and wrap their heads around it
Yeah.
without thinking, well, like without like, for us, like I think for like a normal person to be like, oh, there's, yeah, it's branches and it's going into a thing, yeah, I see the lines, I understand it, whereas we're looking at it saying like, well, hang on, how does that make sense? Like, because like you explained it this way, how is a physical thing even possible? Like,
Yeah.
I think like we're just over analyzing it in a way, like the writers are just like, it's just a stupid thing, get over it and move on, right?
I think that's
But
why it's supposed to be like we're outside of time. So you're
yeah,
seeing the physical thing of time. So you're supposed to tell me in one branch there's an entire universe in this. I'm like,
is
is
that
this
my
it
thing though,
feels,
is like them explaining how it works and just like thinking about how it works. I
yeah,
don't understand how there is, how time is physical.
yeah,
I was under the assumption, like the way that they're explaining it and everything, oh, like the thing that we're seeing is somehow like energy, or
Yes.
something that's coming from time, like the existence of time
Yeah.
and worlds and realities. And that's not actual what time is, right?
Yeah.
But
This is just
then the
fiction though,
temporal
so
loom, yeah,
like we
then
have no like it's just like a comic book's representation of time,
yeah.
I guess. Like I
My,
have no idea.
my thing is my concept of that is unraveled because when the
Yeah.
loom explodes, all of existence across all branches stop existing. So and that's under the assumption that what we're looking at as a physical thing actually is what time is physically,
Yeah.
which does not make any sense to me.
No, I agree with you, and
Yeah,
I think that's why like I don't really know much compared to comic books and stuff. Like I thought the Infinity Stones were like, these are the six elements of life, and they were the the craziest things across the entire universe.
that's another thing that like they're
And then,
gone. What
but
is
now, but now, if you're telling me that that's just one branch, there's six, and
yeah,
every branch has another six fucking Infinity Stones that are all pretty much useless in the TVA, which is why I'm like, so this has to be the most powerful thing we will probably see in the MCU. The fact that we are outside of time, and Victor Timely, or He Who Remains, one
yeah.
of the Kang variants, has found a way to get outside of not physical thing and make it into it and like make it a physical thing. It is like God just playing,
They took
creating life with every branch.
they took a concept and turned it into a physical thing.
Yeah,
Like you think,
that's
okay,
that's the only way I could think
kind
of.
of like eternity. Like eternity as a concept is a physical
Yeah,
embodiment of like an actual celestial form.
yeah, like the way I
Yeah.
see it is like it's like outside of time. Like when so as soon as they left time, like kind of like how the Watchers are behind the glass of
Mm-hmm.
like whatever, and then what's his name?
Watu.
Ultron is like
Oh,
so
Ultron. Yeah.
powerful that he can see through like the invisible glass, and he
Yeah.
can get into the other side of the multiverses, whatever. It's kind of like how the only way I can describe how Kang did is he got outside of time and then was like, I found a way to create this device that will like basically prune an
Yeah.
entire tree till it's just one timeline. This is the one I chose at random. Maybe it wasn't random, who knows.
But also
Uh
turn it into a physical
yeah,
thing.
and then he's like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna pluck out variants from these dead branches, and I'm gonna have them work in my citadel of the TVA, and we're just gonna then we can just use
But
time doors
but
to
that's
enter.
that still implies that um things were happening before the temporal loom. And now that the temporal loom is destroyed, things are being destroyed. But why? Like, wouldn't they still exist if things existed before the temporal loom?
Maybe that was his. I don't know. It's his design. It's his whatever those rings do around. They're not meant to handle anything other than the sacred timeline. So maybe that's like. Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know. It's so
Well, the
confusing.
only thing I always come back to is
Yeah.
Loki says in I think season one, he says, "Is this the greatest power in the universe?" And I'm
Yeah.
like, so that's the only way I can think of. Like Kang is basically a god and he can do stuff, but I don't know, dude. I can't wrap my head around it any more than you can. So like the only way I can get through it is I was like, okay, it's a physical thing until someone finally tells me it's not. So he found
Yeah.
a way to manipulate a physical thing. It's like breaking down the fourth wall, I guess, or something, or
Mhm.
whatever. Like he got, it's like I don't know. It's just like there's so many powerful characters in comic books that I don't even know about, and that right
Yeah.
now I'm like, well, who the fuck's more powerful than the guy who can literally snap an entire universe and reality away and like as a branch and just be like, I don't want them to live. I'm like, isn't that God? Like, isn't Kang God now at this point?
Well,
The only thing,
again, Kang's like he's still like he doesn't. Loki has that kind of as a power now, and Kang was
yeah,
just like, I'm using whatever resources I have to do sort of that, right?
yeah,
Um, but yeah, definitely not the most powerful. If we're going based on like stuff from the comics,
yeah.
um, definitely not the most powerful.
Well, he is right now as Chris in the MCU in
For
the
what we know of
movies.
the MCU, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Um, the only thing I know that, I guess this is also another question about everything that we're seeing from this episode. Were from the last episode, both Renslayer and D90 were pruned from the TVA.
Yeah.
Logically, they would be going to the void at the end of time, to face Eliath.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah, we didn't
does
see Renslayer at all in
No,
this
we
one,
didn't
eh?
see it. So I'm assuming I'm guessing we're gonna be seeing her at in the last episode, but I
It'd
don't
be
know
funny
because
because she's gonna go to a universe with just Lokis.
yeah, that's true. That would be funny, yeah. Um, but the question is, like all the questions that we're having here, are we actually gonna see that? Because Loki's rewriting events and
Mhm.
times by going back and stuff. He's at a point where we see him leave off in this episode, earlier in the TVA, before Renslayer gets pruned. I guess unless it's Victor Timely walking out of the Temporal Loom, because she
Right.
was pruned
Yeah.
before that. Um,
She was
but
pruned right before they put Victor Timely in the thing, right?
yeah, yeah, okay.
Because they had to
So
go break him out of prison or whatever, or out of
okay,
his her
yeah.
grasp.
So maybe not, but like, um, he is rewriting, and again, she's on a sacred she's on the sacred timeline because all points of time converge at that point.
Yeah.
Um, whereas the TVA is not on the sacred timeline. But Loki's rewriting reality for both, right? Because he's
Hmm.
traveling through he's traveling through branch timelines and the TVA. He's time slipping through all of that. So if Loki's rewinding and resetting and rewriting reality, does uh does him rewriting the events affect Renslayer's story and point in time?
I think it will have to find that out with whenever he decides to do. Because I'm gonna assume next episode is gonna be him time slipping everywhere. So I don't know if he's gonna go to one specific point and try to fix it from there,
Mm-hmm.
or if he's able to time slip between, like, I gotta go here, I can go here, I can fix this, I can fix that, I can fix this. I don't know what kind of time, like the time slipping power. I don't know if he fixes one spot, if it fixes everything in
Yeah.
the future, or if he has to go and fix multiple mistakes. Like, I don't know if it's like,
Yeah.
to me, I feel like it's Edge of Tomorrow, where it's like he is gonna, like, I don't know if he can. It seems like he can go wherever the fuck he wants. So it's not
Yeah.
like in Edge of Tomorrow he dies and he always gets sent back to one specific time.
Right.
Loki can go wherever he wants. So I feel like he'll be fixing multiple different things. I don't know, but it is. I feel like the next episode is gonna be a very like Groundhog Day type thing. Um, I just don't know how it's gonna play
Yeah.
out. But if it depends on their stories, I won't really know that answer until like I see where he fixed it from. Like, I always, every time I watch those type of movies, like I love Edge of Tomorrow. It's probably my top 5 favorite movies. Every time
Yeah.
when I watch anything like those kind of ones where they can go back in time and fix stuff, I'm always like, oh, but if they fix it at this part, this person died before that, so that
Yeah.
person will stay dead. So I'm always like,
I'm
they
the
gotta go
same
back
way.
further.
I'm the
So I
same way
always
when
have
I
to.
watch it.
I'm always just like watching stuff. So
Yeah.
until I see him go, if he goes any further back than when they put Victor in a suit, then Renslayer should still be in a thing unless he goes further back than that point. So, um,
Yes.
sorry, I don't know how you always remember all these other characters' names. Like, your name is like D50, if your name is like B15, I
I
don't fucking
somehow know
remember
the
your name.
Eternals.
Yeah, I know Icarus. I know that's
Yeah.
like it. I think that's the only one I remember. Um, and maybe Athena without the A. That's the only two I remember.
Yeah, Makari, Cersei,
Cersei.
um one of them blanking on right now actually. Kingo, um Fastos,
Those was the
uh
Asian guy. I
yeah,
knew him.
Sprite.
Spray was a little kid.
The one I'm blanking on is the mind control guy, and I
Is it
know
like
his name, but I'm like
it starts with a T? I think it's like Theo or
I
Thedius or something.
don't think so. I think
I
it's
thought
just it's Druid. Druid.
Druid.
Yeah.
I was way
Pretty
off.
pretty sure.
Uh, okay.
Or
Yeah.
Druid?
So
Druid something with a D.
so
Yeah.
yeah, I don't remember the guy's name, but it was the guy who was holding Victor Timely when he was
Mm.
got zapped taking a sip of the cocoa
Yeah, hot
hot
cocoa.
cocoa. So
D90.
Yes, okay, so I don't know, I don't remember how you remember. So D90 and Renslayer are the two that I
Yeah,
wonder if we'll see their story at all in the void, or if that's just kind of the end of them. I don't even know if we'll see Miss Minutes again. Like, unless he goes back
yeah.
further and has to confront Miss Minutes again and then fixes the timeline from there or something. But as far as I know, like, she's not dead. She's just taken offline by OB, right?
Or is she dead?
I don't know. Yeah, it's true. I guess she could be dead, but she
Yeah,
seems a little too far advanced to just die from something that the He Who Remains created. But
yeah.
unless who knows, she's either dead or taken offline. Um, Renslayer and D90 are in the void, and I don't know if we'll see them again. What about Brad? We didn't see Brad this episode. He was just left in a room with a prune stick. I'm surprised we didn't see him at all. But
I
I
think
guess,
we'll probably see Brad.
yeah.
We probably won't see D90 because let's be honest, D90 was a side character. They
Oh
tried to
yeah,
give him
yeah,
some sort of like emotional impact in the first episode, being like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I pruned you, Mobius," but like, he's
yeah, yeah,
otherwise just a side character. He's probably dead.
yeah.
And then we'll definitely see Renslayer. There's there's definitely a point in the trailer where I remember I'm like, we haven't seen that yet, and that seems like where it's coming up. So
Oh, I do like the episode me and Jess had at the same time with Owen Wilson. When he goes, he's like, "What did you call me again?" And he
yeah,
goes, "Mobius." And he goes, "It's a pretty cool name." And me and Jess both just said,
yeah.
"That's a pretty cool name." At the same time that
Oh
he
yeah,
said it, and me and Jess looked at each other, looked at the TV, we were like,
yeah,
"What?" We thought it was so funny. And then I love when they're all back in their little group and they're all talking about their lives, and he's trying to sell the
yeah.
girl,
A
like
jet ski.
he's trying to sell her a fucking jet ski, and he's
Always
like,
be
yeah,
selling.
yeah, yeah.
She's she's
He's like,
from
there's financial. He's like, we have financial
yeah.
strategies and blah blah. So
She lives in New York in a different branched reality 10 years earlier than he
yeah,
is, but
yeah.
sure, we
But
got financing options.
I thought that was funny, but then even when
Yeah.
he's like, "Oh, my name is Don," blah blah blah, or he's
Yeah.
like, "Or Mobius is my space name," and I was like, "That's so like." Just I was like, man, Owen Wilson was just what a great person to cast in
Yeah.
that. Like, I thought Owen Wilson was hilarious as a person to cast the show, but
Hmm.
OB takes the cake, man. Like, just
Yeah.
he's so fucking funny the whole time. So,
I let's not undersell Tom Hiddleston's performance throughout this whole series
oh
because
no, I
he's
like.
been fantastic.
Oh, absolutely. I actually
Yeah.
read something. I don't know. I don't have the exact quote here, but
Hmm.
I read something that said Owen Wilson said that he wished he met Tom Hiddleston like
Oh.
10 years earlier or something
Oh,
because
okay.
um, he said that he would have been a way better actor if
Ah.
he had met Tom Hiddleston earlier because he's just such a great person and
Yeah.
blah blah blah. So,
Well,
I-
Tom Hiddleston used to impersonate Owen Wilson. So
oh, did he?
I think I think he's been a fan of Owen Wilson's for a
Oh, that's
long
funny.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like clips of him in talk shows and stuff impersonating him. Um,
Wow.
yeah, and from what I remember in like interview and behind the scenes stuff, um, Owen Wilson didn't have any sort of knowledge or concept of the MCU and timelines and events and stuff.
Hmm.
So he basically instead of watching stuff, he went to Tom Hiddleston. He's like, can you tell me like what happened to your character and like the timeline of events and everything?" And Tom Hiddleston basically held like a course for the people involved in Loki about like a course for Loki and the MCU
Yeah, that's
and
funny.
like how everything I remember that was happening at the same time as the Falcon Winter Soldier. Like they were shooting that at the same time.
Just go watch the
And
movies.
yeah, and I know
Movies are
and that
so good.
I remember Anthony Mackie's like, "Dude, what the hell? They're doing like a course on like Loki there. Like Tom Hiddleston's doing a course on Loki.
Yeah,
He's like, why don't like can we go and sit in on this?" And they're like, "No, you're not involved in the project." So, like,
that's so funny though. But
yeah,
like that's what a like a Loki thing to do. Be like, come on, my subjects, let me
yeah,
teach you. Let me teach you my all
exactly.
my ways, and you just sit down, and I'll be your teacher. Like, what a Loki move. Instead of just being like, just watch all my movies, just be like, oh, okay, I'll be in charge of the classroom for a little bit. Um, That's funny. But yeah, I read that about Owen Wilson saying that he wished he met Thomas Hiddleston earlier because he's just such a
Yeah.
great guy and a great teacher, and he thinks he would have been a better actor if he had met him earlier. And I I would say when I was just watching, when you watch all the characters, they all have growth and development. All of the Avengers. I used to
Yeah.
say that not Natalie, Natasha Romanoff
Yeah.
had the most character development where she was just ice cold or like ice cold, brutal
Mhm.
assassin, didn't care about family, whatever. And then she's like, this is
Yeah.
my family now. And like she probably had the most development. You could
Mhm.
say Bruce Banner did too, with like arguing between Bruce and they all had their own things. But just because this is supposed to be Loki from season or this is supposed to be Loki from
From Thor.
2012.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
from 2012. Yeah, yeah,
from Age of All from the first Avenger movie. So
yeah.
he literally had to go from taking over New York to then learning about his whole
In
death
a matter of
and
days for for
yeah,
him, right? In
yeah,
real
for him,
time.
yeah. Yeah, just to learn about his death, that life has gone on without him, that he got, his family's gone, his mom's death was on his thing,
Yeah.
he eventually evidently dies from Thanos, who led him on this war towards Earth in the beginning, and
Yeah.
now
To having friends. Yeah.
now he has friends, and now he has to basically try to save
Yeah.
all of he wanted to just rule one world and be the
Yeah.
ruler of like one realm, and
And
now
now
he
he
has
wants
to
to
like
save everything.
save every single thing ever and try to like yeah, I don't know. I would just say for sure. I didn't mean to like belittle his act. I would say
Yeah.
he has the most development now of all of the MCU. But yeah, Tom Hiddleston's awesome. Everyone, I like everybody. A lot of people don't have as much screen time as others. Like I
Yep.
think Casey's hilarious, but he probably has a
Yeah.
collective of like 10 minutes of screen time throughout 2 seasons. So, um, but yeah, OB, I just thought he's just
Yeah.
so funny every time he's on screen. I'm like, look at this guy. This guy has like just just like so smart, but so like clueless to everything else around
Yeah.
him. Like it's so funny. That's just that first scene where he goes, like he's like time slipping. It's impossible. He's like, but we just saw it. And he goes, yeah. Like he's just all of it is awesome. I mean,
Um, yeah, I mean, usually I end this off saying like, where do we think this is going to go? But we pretty much said that.
yeah,
Because I don't think we really have an idea
yeah,
where things are going to go here. So it's going to be a fun finale. This I will say. I mean, now we can say like, without being frowned upon, you should watch the show. But you're already watching it if you're watching this podcast.
yeah,
Um, this has been a great uh season. It's been a great series.
yeah,
And I still think this is top tier and MCU series.
yeah,
Um, where we're seeing like a bunch of negativity on Marvel and the MCU lately. I don't know about you, but like I see it online all the time. It's just like, oh, the MCU's over and blah blah blah. But we're also seeing it in numbers by like people going to the box office and stuff like that.
right,
Or viewership numbers on Disney Plus. Although we don't really know that, we just like I just see things like, oh, report that not a lot of people watch the show or whatever. Um, so seeing stuff like this has been great, and there's just news that we're gonna see less and less Marvel stuff coming up.
yeah.
It's gonna be a slow release for stuff. So I guess we should just enjoy the good stuff while we have it right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
I wouldn't even say it's all. It's not even like everything that's coming out is bad. Like, sure, there are some that isn't that great. Like, I enjoyed Quantumania. I had a good time with it.
yeah,
Um, I know a
I
lot of
think
people said it was
we're the
garbage.
exception. Like it
Yeah,
seems like we're the exception. We're the ones who are like, yeah, I mean, we're still having a good time. This stuff is
yeah,
still fun and good.
yeah. They're trying to do stuff different and explore different areas of like comic book stuff and bring things to the screen.
Yeah,
You still have all those awesome movies you can go back and watch anytime. So if you don't
yeah,
like the stuff going forward, just wait till it comes out on Disney Plus and it's with your subscription anyway, so you don't have to go to the movies to go see them anymore. Like, but
yeah.
I think that is what is also making numbers bad. Is just like people are paying for Disney Plus already. These movies are going to come out on Disney Plus. They didn't have Disney Plus till like the beginning of the pandemic, so you're
Mm-hmm.
seeing these movies. We had to go every month to see these movies. Otherwise, they didn't come out for like 6 months after. So we
So
went to go see them in
that's
theaters.
that's starting to change though. in a couple of instances. One, Echo coming out is going to be not only on Disney Plus but
Right.
also on Hulu.
Mm.
Granted, I think they're doing that because it's going to be TVMA, and most people who sign up for Disney Plus are looking for the family aspect of it, and
Yeah.
by default, that stuff is blocked unless you specifically change it. Whereas
Right.
Hulu, I don't think that's the case. Um, Another instance is recently they started releasing Disney Plus series on DVD and Blu-ray, which I appreciate. Why didn't you start doing that at the beginning though, Marvel? Um, and
They started doing what? Sorry, they started
so
releasing them all at once.
WandaVision, Loki, and I think some other shows are finally on physical media, so you can buy them instead of
Mm.
subscribing to Disney Plus.
Right.
Um, the third thing is Miss Marvel. At one point last year, I think it was, they aired the episodes on ABC.
Mm.
So there's been instances where um, Disney, or at least the Marvel side of things, they're trying to branch out these series to other platforms so more people can view them.
I think that's the what people mean. So I think there's like a couple when you're saying like when people say that things are not good. I feel like there's like two types of that though. Like the movies, sure, some of the movies have not been great, but I feel like the numbers are like also two reasons. Like people are barely going to the movies anymore after COVID. Like I know a lot of my friends don't want to go to the movie theater anymore. They don't want to sit next to somebody. Now they'd rather either steal it online somehow, or
Yeah,
they just wait. They're like, I already have a subscription service. That movie's gonna be on
yeah,
there in 2 months, 3 months. I'll just wait a couple extra months. There's already other stuff to watch. I'll get that movie when it comes out. So you can already wait. Like before, it used to be like
sure,
six months before you had to wait to see like
yeah,
Quantum Main see Ant Man, right? But then Ant Man was out in like 2 months on Disney Plus or whatever it actually was. But so you can just wait.
yeah.
And then there's just after COVID, I feel like the movies are just not like there anymore. People just don't have the drive to like be in public. They
There's
don't have to.
but
So
there's
those are
but there's arguments against that though, because at the same time that Quantumania didn't get a lot of ticket sales,
yeah,
Spider-Man No Way Home absolutely did. It crushed it.
right.
Um, and then at the same time during this like the summer, um, the Barbie movie, Oppenheimer, Mario Brothers movie, they were all, from what I remember, they all performed very well.
Yeah,
Whereas what Marvel, do we have a Marvel movie in the summer? Oh, yeah, yeah. What just came out? It was Thor, right?
Guardians.
Or
Guardians.
Guardians. Did Guardians do? I guess Guardians did well.
Did Thor come out this summer or last summer?
Might came out last summer. I don't know. I don't remember.
Okay, yeah,
It's probably
Guardians
last
came out
summer.
this year. Yeah, Guardians
Yeah,
did well, but like there was exceptions for that. Guardian was the last one in the trilogy as far as
mm-hmm.
we know so far. So I know people wanted to
Franchise. Yeah,
see that. Yeah, people wanted to see where that was gonna go. I also saw tons of like advertisements for it.
yeah,
Barbie movie and Oppenheimer. I don't think I've ever seen more ads or whatever material for that, and that's
yeah.
another reason that they probably did so well.
Well,
Uh,
let's include one thing we weren't going to talk about today, just for the end of this podcast here. The Marvels is the worst performing Marvel movie or MCU movie ever. And but I think to your point though, there was no advertisement for it because there was a strike. They couldn't have their actors go out and promote the movie.
right. So
So
it's just a bad. I think that
yeah,
was just a bad time to release the movie, and like I haven't seen it yet, so I don't know if it's really good. I don't know if it's really
I've
bad.
heard mixed
I
things.
Yeah, I also think there's also like things that some people, like we said, we talked about it last week, how some people watch the movies but they don't watch the shows. If you don't watch the shows,
Yeah.
you have no idea who Miss Marvel is,
Yep.
and you don't know who the other
Monica.
girl from WandaVision is.
Yeah.
So you're like Captain Marvel's off doing her own adventures with
Do
some
you
people.
need
Who
to
who
though?
cares?
Like that's what I'm wondering. I'm gonna be paying attention to that when I watch the movie because I heard that argument.
Yeah,
Somebody I was listening to another YouTube thing, and someone's like, I had a friend to me come up to me and say, "Hey, I haven't watched Miss Marvel. Do I need to watch that? Or like,
the other stuff.
is it okay? Like, should I go see the Marvels if I haven't watched that? Because I
Mhm.
think that person had no plan to." And I'm like, and I'm thinking like I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know, but I'm wondering if that is going to be the case for the movie. But I
Yeah.
imagine they would just be like, "Oh, this is this girl. She has these powers, and this is her family, and then this is where we go from here."
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's
Eh,
what they do.
Right, and you know, you can go into a movie and they just introduce a character, and then you
Hmm.
learn about her powers, and they just do a quick, you know, talk about your powers. And what I think even in the trailer, it showed something about saying like she can control light, she can control this, and
Yeah,
she
they
can
said that
control
in the
whatever.
trailer. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they do a quick thing of people's powers. You're not gonna get the whole background story right away, but there might be people who just been like, ah, you know what? I didn't watch WandaVision and I didn't watch that show yet. I'll
Yeah.
just wait till the Marvels comes out on the show, and then when I finish those two shows,
But
then I'll watch the movie. Like
but
there's,
I've heard of like I've heard of people who went into the Avengers movies not watching anything else, only watching like a few things.
it's true.
I mean,
You could do it too. I mean, you don't.
Court's an example of that because I talked to her in our podcast recapping season one.
Yeah.
I said, "What have you watched from the MCU?" And she like it was Loki and a few Avengers movies and like a few other things. That's it.
Mhm.
So
But uh they're also looking at characters that people know. Not a lot of
yeah,
people know who Miss Marvel is,
yeah.
or Captain Marvel, or like a Captain Marvel you should know. Maybe Miss Marvel. The other one I haven't even
No,
heard of. And
I'd say Captain Marvel's
like,
still unknown. Like people
yeah,
know of her from the movie and the Avengers
yeah. And we even
mostly.
talked about last week how after Tony snapped, like that was the
Hmm.
last thing. People kind of just fell off after that. People don't
Yeah.
need to watch it now. Like I don't have the same drive to go to the theater. I went and saw Quantumania, I saw Loki, and I saw Guardians all in theater because I
Not
still wanted to
Loki.
follow up. What's that?
You said
What did I say?
Loki. The
Ant
Guardians.
Ant Man,
Yeah.
not Loki. Thor,
Thor.
Thor, and
Loki was not in Thor. Love and Thunder.
yes, it's true. That's yeah. So Thor, I was
Yep.
talking about Loki too much. Thor, Ant Man, and Guardians. But those are all characters that we've known for years.
Hmm.
So I wanted to still follow their stories. So I
Yes.
want to see Captain Marvel, where who she's only had one movie before, and then now she's being introduced with new characters that people may have not watched the shows. So I could see it flopping on top
Hmm.
of what you said with the other stuff. It could also just be a bad movie, and maybe I'm talking on my ass. Maybe it is just terrible. I have
I've heard
no
mixed
idea.
things.
I haven't seen it yet. We will see it,
Hmm.
and we will also do a podcast on a review for it to see what
Hmm.
we think.
Yeah.
We watch everything, so we unless it's
Almost.
yeah, almost unless it's She-Hulk. I still haven't watched She-Hulk.
I did watch
See,
season 2 of I Am Groot.
yeah, did you like it?
No.
No. See,
It's the only
I
MCU thing I'm down on. That's it.
yeah. I liked the I Am Groot stuff.
Yeah.
They're like literally you could watch 2 seasons of that in 20 minutes.
I know.
Like less than that.
They're
You
meant
could
for
watch
like
it all.
they should be in the beginning of the movies. They
Yeah.
should be
That's
like the Pixar shorts. That's what they should be.
they should just put them at the beginning. That would
Yeah.
be awesome. Um
We'll do I have a chart. Well, I don't know how we're gonna do this. Actually we can discuss how we want to do this and then I'll plan accordingly. Um, I wanted to go through the stuff that's out and maybe stuff that's in the future.
yeah.
And go through what we thought was good or bad. And I think spoiler alert, I'm not gonna say anything's bad. Um, but like just like recap like what we thought.
Didn't we do that already? I thought we did that.
Did we?
Yeah, we made a list. At least I think it was when we were talking about Guardians of the Galaxy or Thor. We made a list of all the new stuff of what order we put it in. Because I remember having a list of
Yes, no, we
the
did our rankings like what we thought was better. But
yeah.
that's like, but what do we think was good? Because people are like
Hmm,
the MCU sucks, everything's bad now in Phase 4 and 5 after
yeah.
Endgame. But is it? Because I would argue I've
I
enjoyed
mean,
everything.
except for Love and Thunder. Love and Thunder wasn't good.
Love
Like
and
there are
Thunder,
moments in Love and Thunder that
yeah,
are good. It is not a
yeah.
good movie though. It is just
Well,
there's
I
an
would say
unexplained
I
thing in
don't
it
think it
that
was
drove
a
you and me nuts.
I don't think it was a bad movie. Like I enjoyed watching it. There I
It's
don't
low
think it was
tier.
it was low tier Marvel. I consider but I also consider like She-Hulk low tier Marvel, but I had fun and I enjoyed watching She-Hulk.
Yeah.
So I don't think anything's necessarily bad.
You know what we should
Um
do? We should put it into where we think was like top tier for like the
yeah.
stuff that was really
So
good.
you want a
Stuff
tier
that
ranking.
something that we thought was good,
Okay.
but maybe in like whatever, like what we thought was like it doesn't have to be
Yeah.
good or bad. We could also put like, She-Hulk. I haven't seen it. You don't
Yeah.
think it's bad. A lot of people think it's bad. We could just put that under comedy. Like it was definitely more of a comedy than anything
Okay.
else.
I
We could
want to
put it
know
into like genres, like action, whatever. Put them all in their own thing.
genres and if it's good or not are two different things.
That's
Because like I mean I think you're insinuating that comedy equals bad.
well,
Because
it's
I
just
I would say like I like the aspect of an MCU comedy and that's why I
yeah.
like She-Hulk.
Yeah, I would say people were probably thought they were looking for a female Hulk and thought it would be maybe action, but it was mostly just attorney stuff, was it not? So
Yeah, I think if
uh,
you know the character, you kind of expect that.
yeah. See, I
But
I would probably think it's bad, whereas I think other people would be
yeah,
like, well, it's not as typical Marvel thing. You could
yeah.
just say it was It's supposed to be a comedy. It's not like
I would like to know like how you think we should handle that because we can go the tier ranking route, but I always never like because I don't know where to put stuff. Because there's like
yeah.
S tier, A tier, but like what does that
We could
mean?
just do what
Like
we think is like we'll just put for our first favorite
yeah.
to our least favorite. So we'll just put it like we could
Yeah,
just
but
do it
that
like that.
doesn't that's what we did before. We did a ranking like what's better than
Yeah,
the other. But like
yeah.
I want to know like did we enjoy this? Was this good? Or are we on the same line as everybody else where we on the internet at least where we think this is bad and the MCU is bad?
Yeah, okay, yeah, we could do
Yeah.
that. I feel like that's what our podcasts mostly are when we do a review of it. We just say
Yeah.
whether it was good and then we talk about each part of the movie
I just
and then
want
we just
to
talk about whether
I just want to reflect on like it's just the um like the overall opinion of the internet that
yeah,
that the MCU sucks now and it's not good and you shouldn't even
yeah.
bother. But
Uh,
like I want to say like do we actually think that or is like did we
I would
actually
s-
enjoy everything?
yeah, I would say yeah, we could do that. I would
Mhm.
say for me, everything the MCU has put out so far
Yeah,
was worth a watch. I have not watched She-Hulk yet. I just don't know why I haven't gotten into it. I'm
yeah,
not saying it is not worth a watch though. You
sure.
watched it, you enjoyed it, so
Hmm.
it's not bad. I just haven't had the
It,
time to like. It hasn't
yeah,
piqued my interest enough for me to get to it yet. But
it
I will.
it but I say it's worth a watch. For
Like
me,
Wanda.
if you're
Go ahead.
if you're looking for the type of show that it is like me, I would say it's worth one watch.
I want to watch. Okay.
That's about
Yeah.
it.
See, but I'm
I
the opposite.
don't know.
I'm like I don't like WandaVision. I
Yep.
think it's worth a watch because it ties in with the Marvel.
Mhm.
It it
But
ties
like
in
at
with
that point
Doctor Strange.
it's an obligation,
Yes, to
right?
me it was like I was
Because
obligated to watch it. It was
it's like
also
a
the first
chore
show. Yeah.
at that point. That wouldn't you say that's bad though then? Because you had to watch this to get any sort of concept about stuff in the future, and you
See,
didn't enjoy it.
even if I don't like something, I can
Mhm.
appreciate what it was. Like
Okay,
I know from everyone else talking about it, I know that it's a good show because everybody who's watched it likes it.
sure.
I didn't care for it parts of it being black and white. I don't like laugh tracks.
Hmm.
So for me to watch an old, it was like it felt like I was watching that '70s
But
show,
you
and I just
appreciate why they did that.
yes, I
Okay.
appreciate why they did it because it ties in with Wanda's watching cartoon
Mhm.
shows, whatever, when she was growing up.
Yeah.
It uh does the end of Vision, so it takes the rest of Vision's what do you call it? It like wraps up his
Yeah.
conclusion.
Yeah.
Um, it also goes forward into Doctor Strange, so there are parts of
Mhm.
it you want to watch. Whenever somebody talks about Doctor Strange and they ask if it's worth a watch, I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
especially if you should watch WandaVision if you haven't already. There's
Yeah.
tie-ins to Doctor Strange. You don't necessarily need to watch WandaVision to go into Doctor Strange,
Yeah.
but I always recommend it just because of what it has offer. I also don't like the actress who played uh, the witch lady in it, the Harkness,
Oh,
whatever her
yeah,
name is.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I like there's just things I don't I didn't care for, but I can appreciate the show as a whole. Like
Sure.
I didn't hate it. I think I would enjoy it more now that it's all out. I could watch it all in one thing.
Yeah.
Watching it week to week felt like a drag to me, and that's I think what was really like the
I
letdown.
think I think the week to week is what got me hooked.
Really?
And yeah,
I'd rather just binge it
I,
and then
I
I
feel
can
like
decide.
you and I are the opposite on that show. But
Yeah.
like regardless of that, the other half of the aspect of me wanting to bring this up is the other point of the argument is like are people worn out and uh like sort of there's been like an oversaturation of this stuff and are people worn out of the of comic book movies in general, but specifically the MCU. So I want to do our hype meter of stuff that we know is coming out and where we're
Mhm.
at. Like how
Okay.
hype are we for everything?
Okay.
So that's the other aspect of it too. Um, but yeah, we'll save that for another time though. I will
It
let
is
you
very.
go.
I would say, can you hear the squeaking going on or no?
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna let you go play with your dog and,
Oh,
enjoy
yeah.
enjoy the rest of
Sorry,
your night.
you can hear that. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was her birthday last week,
yeah,
and we bought her a new. We just bought her a new squeaky toy tonight,
yeah.
and she is going absolutely bonkers
I
over
know
it.
it's hilarious.
She has so many other ones, but she's literally going nuts like all night
Yeah,
with it. I couldn't hear it because of my head things, but you could
yeah.
probably hear it through the mic.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Jesus, I'm so sorry. Yeah, it is. How long has that been going on for?
For a very long time. It's been
Oh,
funny though. Progressively
yeah.
louder too.
Yeah, no, she's going nuts. She's just walking in
Yeah,
the hallway. She came in here, she opened the door, she walked around and huffed at me,
yeah.
and then just stared at me to come out. Like she's a spoiled little birthday girl right now.
I'm gonna let you go and play with your dog. We will be back next week, I'm assuming, and
Yeah.
talking about the finale of Loki. Our talk on the Marvels is not gonna be for a bit, but I don't think we're gonna have a lot of other stuff to talk about. So like,
Yeah.
I think the next big thing after Loki is gonna be the Marvels.
Yeah.
But let us know what you thought of Loki episode 5, and we'll see you in the next one. Good night.
Yeah. Take care, everyone.
Yeah, so